Who will be the next to commit to the Auburn Tigers? We tell you next.
Freezing temperatures are likely for several hours inland and a few hours closer to the coast.
Yes.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Happy Recruiting Thursday. We are joined by Bryce Smith, Locked On Recruiting insider and expert. And Brian, let's turn our focus to Jalyn Crawford, the Georgia kid, announcing this weekend. And it seems like, Brian, and we've said this before, we've been wrong, but it seems like he's picking the Auburn Tigers.
That's what you would think. Now, I've heard a little Florida buzz too. They're trying there. So if it happens, I'm blaming you, because anytime I come on this podcast, things go sideways for me. But,
do you think it's us? You think it's our fault?
Well, I think it's you. I don't think it's Auburn. I think it's you. But no, seriously, like Auburn's been the trend for a while. So that's what I'm going with. But I've heard so many kids leaning one direction or another to various schools in the last month, and they pick somebody out of the blue that I'm nervous.
Is that NIL, Brian? Is that why people are doing that?
That's part of it. But I mean, I don't know. Like, a couple of the kids just decided to stay home. This is random all over the country. And everybody, oh, he's going to this school, going to that one. And then the kid who, like, third or fourth pick is all of a sudden his commitment. So I don't think Crawford's that guy, but I've been wrong before.
Yeah, and Zach Gethridge is over that recruitment, which kind of gives you a little bit more comfort from an Auburn perspective. He's pretty dang good. He's one of the best ones out there right now.
If you have your stud guys recruiting the key players, it's never a bad thing, my friend. And they've done a really good job in the greater Atlanta area for years. This is a kid that's a program they recruit every year, so that makes me feel a little more comfortable too.
And I like corners. That's my favorite position group to watch. I think footwork and how they use their hands and, feeling the space around them. I think all that's just super interesting part of the sport. I think Crawford could play early. And I mean, this is part of the sales pitch. We talk about the importance of playing early, and Auburn's got older corners with DJ James and Nehemiah Pritchett moving on after this season. I mean, it could be Jalyn Crawford and Cain Lee fairly early, and you don't feel awful about it.
Well, at least they're really I never liked freshman corners in the SEC. Let me start with that. But he's got enough talent to play, and I love Lee. I know him very well. He's a really good football player. I think he's an NFL guy. If they can get one more corner in this class that can play early out of everybody they bring in, and they'll figure that stuff out, that would help Auburn a lot. They need more depth at that spot.
Yeah. Amon Lane shot up the On3 rankings when they reloaded and redid all those earlier this week. So, maybe he could be that other corner. We'll certainly wait and see. So that's exciting. That's exciting. I think Auburn's fine in the defensive back room. I think it's the offensive line, which you and I joke about all the time, and several other position groups as well. So another one is wide receiver, right? And so let's start with the good news, and then we'll talk about some of the uncertain news, and then eventually drift into the bad news that I think you're really excited to talk about. But Bryce Cain is one of those guys that improved. His rating went from unrated to a top 200 player, according to On3. Brian, you got to think when other ranking systems update 247 rivals, you got to think Bryce Cain will rise on those as well. But you're really high on this kid, right?
Yeah. Well, look, he's really fast. He's really twitchy. He plays in Mobile, which per capita is about as good as it gets for sending guys to what I like to call the not for long, otherwise known as the NFL.
Sure.
And why he wasn't ranked higher earlier, I'm not sure. You and I kind of laughed about that a while back, but I guess better now than never. So hopefully he kind of lives up to that. But I think he could come in this system. Auburn's going to run a lot of RPO and stuff. He is built for that, man. Faster than a hiccup. I think Auburn fans are going to like Mr. Cain.
And he seems solid to Auburn. Like, he seems all in, which I don't think you really have to worry about him ascending and other people calling him. I think he seems all in to me.
Well, in today's recruiting, again, I'm always nervous. That's just me. But that area, by the way, just generically needs to be Auburn again. When Auburn has been good historically, even Pat Dye, whatever, they've gotten a lot of kids from the greater Mobile area.
Good point.
And if they don't, they're not going to beat that team up in Northwest part of the state is often. This is the kind of player it starts with. The 25 class is loaded there, etc. Auburn needs to win more battles in Mobile.
Sure. All right, let's talk about Perry Thompson. I mean, it's become one of the more dramatic recruitments in the state of Alabama. I don't think that's a stretch, right?
No, it's not. I'm ready for that to conclude, by the way.
Yeah, I think both fan bases are. I mean, I think I've seen a lot of Alabama people even be like, okay, even if he flips, like let's just get it, let's just do this. Let's just do this. And so, he's been committed to Alabama for over a year, committed last June. Man, Brian, it just seems like all the smoke is him flipping to Auburn.
That's the only thing I've heard too, and I know you've heard similar. So my only question is, when? Please just do this for me. The last time I sent out a message to try to find something about it, I got 0. And it's a person that always replies to me. So what does that mean? I just hope he makes a decision that he wants to stick with, whether it is Bama or Auburn. Pick one, stick with it, ride it out till signing day.
Yeah, once you flip once, it's kind of like, okay, you better this better be it.
Exactly. In today's world, though, do you trust that's on? You and I both know the answer to that. That's rhetorical. It's no. Yeah. I just hope Perry is a kid that figures it out. So whatever it is for him, let it happen sooner than later for me too.
Do you think Big Cat Weekend at the end of this month would make sense for him to do it then?
I think that's a really strong possibility. If it's not him, it'll be some other guys, and he's going to get pressure from some of the other commitments and stuff. My guess is between then and like the 15th, whenever their season starts at Foley, I don't know what their first game is. Mm-hmm. You would think you'd want that stuff over with, because then once you go to games, guys like me going to games asking you, they don't like that stuff. He's going to get asked constantly, and it's just what we have to do. So him making a decision behooves both parties. Please do this.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. Because he said that he wants to, I don't know if he said it, if it's just what the reports from his camp are, but the reports are he wants to announce it before his senior season.
Right.
And Big Cat Weekend is just a few weeks before his senior season. And I mean, that's kind of a pivotal event. I mean, you could really make some national news with doing that. And that's when the hype is going to be the highest. It would make sense to me, but that doesn't always mean it's going to happen.
Well, at the end of the day, I always tell people the same thing. We're dealing with 17-year-olds. Consistency in 17-year-old males, probably not the greatest in the world. So that has to be taken into account. But I think, again, Auburn's done a good job with that list they got coming in for that weekend, too. I know you know more about it than I do, but it's a who's list. And they're going to have a lot of guys going to, hey, why don't you come join us? Guys he's messaging with anyway.
Yeah.
Why not? I guess is the other way to look at it from the opposite perspective. Why would he not make that decision?
Well, and the timing of Big Cat obviously is the same weekend that most schools are having their premier recruiting event. Like, it's usually a good sign, especially when it's Auburn and Alabama, and he's an Alabama commit, but he's going to Auburn's Big Cat Weekend opposed to Alabama's barbecue. Like, I don't know. It just seems like the timing of a lot of it, and not just Perry, but Marcus Riddick's a similar situation where it seems like the end of July could be really, really strong for Hugh Freeze.
If they don't get some of these kids, I wonder why these kids are coming. Because like you said, it would make sense they'd make a decision then or, shortly thereafter. Riddick's really intriguing, by the way. Georgia doesn't just randomly offer linebackers. This is a kid they coveted, for anybody that's curious about his talent level. So
yeah, it was a committable offer. I mean, he's committed. It's not like he's just being, Georgia's going after him. I mean, he was committed for a minute. So
yeah, that's Auburn could put him in the lineup. He'd be in the 2 deep probably pretty quick.
Him and Phillips together, I mean, they could be one of the better linebacker tandems in recent Auburn memory, and that's saying something.
Auburn's had some dudes at linebackers, to say the least.
No doubt.
They need more depth and stuff on defense anyway, so I'm sure they're selling that point.
Yep, there's no doubt about it. All right. Let's get your thoughts on Malik Blockton, as well as what you know about the Cam Coleman saga. All that coming up right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. You can take your first swing at betting Major League Baseball on FanDuel. Get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets up to $200. That's right. Just bet $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets. Win or lose, free money. I love free money. Brian loves free money. We all love free money. There's no question about it. It's all on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you can get paid instantly. it's not a pain getting the money out of your sports book, which a lot of places it is difficult to actually get paid. So sign up today and visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get up to $200 back in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball and the Locked On Podcast Network. Brian Smith, recruiting expert, joining us. Before we talk about the bad news, let's talk about the good news. Malik Blockton, Marcus Harris, current Auburn defensive lineman's little brother, commits to the Tigers. Pike Road, Montgomery kid, a 4-star that was just like a really quiet, solid win. I think that's kind of a sign of like where Auburn recruiting is. I mean, this would have been a big deal during the Harsin era, and it's just kind of another guy, it seems like, with Hugh Freeze. What are your thoughts on Auburn getting Blockton?
Finally, they're starting to get some of the kids that I think could play at any school in the country along the D-line and front seven. Yeah. That's the first point. 2, he just looks like he shot out of a cannon. The film does not lie. I know we talked about him before. He's one of the best players in Auburn's class, and he's a guy that can play right away at a critical position. Never have enough pass rushers, brother, and Auburn needs more of them, but this is a great start. And if he comes in and plays right away, it will not surprise me at all.
You feel like he could rush the passer at the next level? I mean, there's a lot of talk about where exactly he's going to fit, how much more weight he's going to gain, but do you think he could be a potential pass rusher maybe from the interior defensive line?
I think he's one of those kids that may move up, if you will, but strong side end, and then eventually playing 3-tech or being what they call a swing guy. Yeah, absolutely. Just depends on the circumstance. If you're playing a 3-man line, 3rd and 20, maybe he's a 3-man guy, but 1st and 10, he could play some strong side end or 3-tech, just whatever Auburn wants.
Mm-hmm. Sure. I mean, I really like his tape. I don't know if he's going to be, play as a freshman type kid. I think it may take him a little bit to kind of get some technique down, but his body and his frame, like, you just have to love that size at his age. I mean, that's great. That's
why I think he can play at least some next year. I'm not saying he's going to come in and start.
Sure.
Be in the rotation? Sure.
6'4", 300 as like a 17-year-old. Yes, please. I will take that. And he can move really, really well. So very, very exciting. Brian, we haven't talked since the Cam Coleman stuff went down. What's your thought on it? Did Auburn mess up somewhere? Did A&M back up the Brinks truck? Give me your thoughts on the Cam Coleman situation.
First off, I've met him once. A great kid, a pretty quiet, traditional kind of Alabama kid. And from everything in his recruitment, he was recruited by everybody, for the record.
Yeah.
I didn't hear A&M one time as a really strong possibility. And then I opened my phone after I took a nap one day, and the first thing I saw on Twitter was he had committed to the Aggies, and I said, there's just no way.
Yeah, it's July 4th. Yep.
And I'm like, okay. I mean, if he'd have committed to Florida State, I wouldn't have been shocked. Auburn, obviously, a couple others, LSU. They weren't on my radar.
Clemson was in there, I think.
Yeah. So something's goofy, and I'll leave it at that. But I will make you one strong prediction. He will take more visits. This is not over with. That is my strong belief, and that includes official and unofficial. If I am wrong, so be it. But this is a very awkward one. I talked to a couple people that were laughing about it that are in the recruiting industry. Nobody believes that it was just A&M. He wanted to go there. We'll leave it at that.
Interesting. All right. Do you think he ends up in A&M's class or the field somewhere else?
Field. I'm not buying it. I mean, look, at the end of the day, you're a receiver. Name the last year A&M was good at throwing the football.
Oh, gosh. Have they been good at passing since Johnny Football was there? I mean, like, really good?
To my knowledge, no. Not consistently.
They've been okay. Yeah, I mean, sure, I get it.
At some point, receiver is attached to another position more than any other spot in sport. It's quarterback, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
They can't throw a freaking football. At some point, he's just not going to want to go there, is my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, that was before the current staff was even there. I mean, ever since Jimbo Fisher's been there, I mean, their offense has been extremely underwhelming.
You're being kind. Johnny was last.
It's a family podcast, Brian. We got to be kind.
Yeah, well, okay. Fair enough. 2013 was the last time Johnny played for the Aggies. So that's a long time, bro. That's a long time.
No kidding. General thoughts about the current state of Auburn's class right now. Rivals kind of graded every class in the SEC. They gave Auburn a C+, I believe, just because the number of commits is so low. As far as average player ranking, I think Auburn's second, depending on where you look, but they've only got 10 guys. Your thoughts on kind of the quantity versus quality argument?
I hate how the recruiting rankings just go by a point system. Your needs, impact players, whether or not you got a quarterback, et cetera, are far more important.
Okay.
Only about 8 to 10 guys out of most classes really hit. So your top end guys are more important. And just a lot of the kids they were going after just hadn't decided yet. A couple we were just talking about that are in-state kids, when they flip, Auburn's classes is going to go up in points, overall production, et cetera, and impact players. So I'm not as worried about Auburn as some of the recruiting rankings, but they want clicks. I just tell it like it is.
Yeah. So you feel, if you're talking to Auburn fans right now, which you are, you're saying, hey, you should feel fine with the current state of the class?
Patience. They're in recruitments. A lot of kids aren't going to decide until October, November, December. You know what I mean? Like the Perry situation, it just being one we were hoping is done early, but we don't know. There's some other kids, and they're recruiting in the South, man. It's competitive. They're going to flip a couple more kids we're not even talking about yet.
Sure.
I bet you they end up in the top 15, possibly top 10. Plus, you got the portal. That's where Auburn really made their hay. Overall, I think they're going to be just fine.
Brian, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
At FB Scout _Florida, Twitter, and definitely YouTube, and doing a lot of stuff there too. It's fun, man. We're at the end of this little recruiting run, but it's been fun talking about all the recruiting classes.
Yes, be sure to check out Brian. He's all over the place. Coming up, my conversation with Jason Jones. You're listening to Locked On Auburn. We're now joined by Auburn defensive lineman Jason Jones. Offseason keeps rolling on. Sounds like you guys are still putting in the work, man.
Yeah, everyone's doing pretty good. The workouts are a little bit different, but I think everyone's adapting now and stuff like that. And now we got a little break and everything. But obviously with me and a lot of other players, it doesn't end there. We still got to keep working. So I got to keep grinding during this off time.
Yeah. You say a little different. Is a little different from like earlier in the summer to now, or like from year to year difference?
No. Earlier this summer now, different workout plans, different running's different. All this stuff is different, but it's just more so adapting.
I got it. So, I mean, just kind of chatting with you. I mean, it sounds like communication and kind of getting to know everybody else on the team, make sure everybody's on the same page with this new Ron Roberts defense. Mm-hmm. What is that process looking like when you have limited access to the coaching staff?
Yeah, I honestly believe everyone, especially even the new freshmen, are getting the hang of the whole philosophy of learning the playbook very fast.
Yeah.
I know when I was younger, when I was a freshman, it was kind of hard for me, but a lot of these guys are adapting fast. Like Darren Reed's doing pretty good, and I adapted fast. Keldrick obviously got the whole playbook down packed. So, yeah.
Darren Reed's a guy that Auburn fans are kind of throwing his name out more and more folks are excited to see him as a freshman this year. What's he doing that's kind of standing out to you, if you don't mind?
Darren, here's one thing about him: he won't quit. So like, it doesn't even matter if stuff gets hard, if time gets hard. He's not a quitter. He's going to keep on going because I can tell that he really wants it.
Mm-hmm. And then you mentioned Keldrick. I mean, he seems like a special player, able to play multiple positions on the defensive front. It sounds like you're still seeing kind of consistent improvement from him.
Yeah, Keldrick has been doing amazing, grinding every single day. He's always finding ways to try and get better. Amazing player. And like I said, during the fall, like he's gonna turn a lot of heads if he hasn't already.
Right. No, I think he already has for sure. So as far as your role and your understanding of the defense, how much of it is I need to know just what I'm doing, whether it's a stunt, whether it's an alignment, whether it's a cut, whatever that may look like, versus kind of knowing what the entire front seven is doing? I mean, where are you kind of with that? I mean, you're a leader of this team. You're a veteran. What does that look like to you?
Yeah, I try and learn everyone's position because it only benefits me. And like I said, like if you know what everyone's doing, it just makes your job a lot easier because you know why you're doing your job at that point.
Yeah.
So like I try and learn at least the linebackers up to the linebackers job and everything like that. So
sure. Yeah. And I would imagine it would help understand, like, okay, it makes sense why I'm going here. Like whether it's I'm attacking this gap or, getting, this guy's attention or whatever that may be. It probably allows you to kind of execute with more purpose because you understand what you're doing.
Yeah. And it allows you to play a whole lot faster too.
Mm-hmm. Do you think most of the players in the front seven are doing that?
Only time will tell, but I assume
Sure.
so, because again, it only helps you.
Jason, got a question from a listener in the Discord. JWill27 wanted to know what away game you're looking forward to the most this year.
Definitely Cal in Berkeley.
Okay.
I shouldn't even say Cal. It's Berkeley to me. I played it up at Oregon. We beat on them then. We're going to beat on them now. So, I'm ready for that game.
Is it just because it's that trip, or is it the fact that it's the first road one and it kind of sets the tone, or is it just because you're going to Berkeley?
For me, it's more so that I played in the Pac-12 and I played against them, and I have some little beef with them. But it's all good. It's all good.
Is there anything special about playing at Berkeley? Because I'll say it. Like, I think you guys are going to be able to take care of business there. But for some reason, the narrative around that game is kind of crippling up, where it's like, oh, this is going to be a tough one. This is going to be a tough one. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but a lot of Pac-12 folks are kind of circling this one saying like, yeah, I think Cal's going to win. And I just don't see that happening, Jason.
Well, personally for me, again, I played Cal. Cal's a really good football team. Don't let it underestimate, because like they will embarrass you. And I think their offense is so unique to the point that they'll run sideline to sideline to sideline to sideline and then throw it over the top of you. So that's the type of offense that I personally like too. So I guess that's why I have a little bit of respect for them, because that's what they did against us at Oregon.
Okay. Got it. But as far as like playing there as a player, anything special about it?
I do like their stadium. It's kind of cool, little dome, little coliseum. But besides that, no.
Got it. One thing I wanted to get your thoughts on, and some folks were throwing out some of this on Twitter earlier in the week, but Auburn ranked, when you look at offensive line continuity, so how often the same offensive line was together, Auburn was 69th in the country at 35.6%. The next closest is Georgia Tech at 41%, and it goes to teams all the way up at 74%. So not very good. In fact, Lance Daw, writer at Auburn Daily, said Auburn had 10 different offensive linemen appear in at least 4 different games and record 150 snaps. Auburn played a bunch of offensive linemen last year. Yeah. You've gone up against these guys every day, specifically in spring. It's a totally different group, Jason. Do you get the vibe that it's going to be different up front for Auburn this season?
Definitely. I've said in previous interviews too, like, this offensive line is strong and they play with technique. So you can't just be going out there and doing whatever you really want. You gotta do your assignment. You gotta do what your technique, so you don't get blown off the ball. Because again, these guys play so well together, opposing the last year. So again, I'm excited for what they're going to do this season. I'm ready to see it.
Yeah. Any of those guys that you went up against that you're thinking, okay, they're going to be really set up and primed to have a strong 2023 season?
I want to say the whole line. If I had to pick people, obviously Jeremiah Wright. Everyone wants to see him. I want to see him in more games, because he's a really dominant offensive lineman. He's very strong. I feel like Avery's going to be a huge one, and one of the biggest one, in my opinion, that I'm really excited to see, ready to see, is Dylan Wade.
All of them passed the eye test for sure. Is Jeremiah Wright the biggest smack talker of the group?
Definitely. Definitely.
Who told? I think it was Camden Brown was talking about how just like he never shuts up. He's always talking.
No, but that's him. That's Jeremiah. That's him.
Yeah.
But that's also the confidence thing to it, and I kind of like it. So,
who in the defensive line group kind of is most likely to go back at him as far as the talking goes in between reps and in between snaps? Because I don't think it's you. You don't strike me as a smack talker. You strike me more of a just, I'm going to line up. And
if you get Marcus Harris going, then he's going to say something. If you get him going, if you don't get him going, he ain't going to say nothing. If you get him going, he's going to start talking smack to you back.
Okay.
I think jokingly DK or Donovan Kaufman does it sometimes. It's like jokingly.
I could see that. See that. That's fun. As far as like looking at offensive line continuity, is that something that you guys look at when you're scouting other teams, or it's like, man, they've got a different offensive line every game? I would imagine that's something that one is harder. It may make it harder to scout, but also like it's probably a good thing if you're looking at that, right?
I'm not sure. I don't look at that. I just look at, okay, is this guy injured? No. If he's not injured, okay, this guy's playing. Here's his tendencies. Here's what he's good at. Here's what he's not good at.
So you don't necessarily look. It's like, okay, this has been the same group for 3 games in a row or anything like that.
There's obviously like some things like, this group has been together for 2 years. So this guy's been together for 3 years. So they work very well together. So we have some stuff like that.
Got it. Jason, thanks for stopping by the show. Really appreciate it, my friend. And we will talk to you soon.
All right. See you later, man.
Thank you so much to Brian. Thank you so much to Jason. We will be back tomorrow to wrap up the week, our last show before SEC Media Days. Until then, you can check out all my written work at auburndaily.com, and we will see you tomorrow. This has been Locked On Auburn.